Hello and welcome back for another update on the Universal UK project. Now, apologies for the slight delay in this update. I didn't do one in September, and that's because not that much has been happening. I'm afraid I don't have a lot to report, and I don't really want to waste people's time making a mountain out of something that's just completely irrelevant. So let's get to the few updates that we do have. First of all, according to rumours, Universal have pulled out of possibly buying PortAventura in Spain because the park was asking for too much money. Universal have previously owned a park in their early days, but they later sold it on. And there's been rumours all year that Universal were maybe looking into buying the park again. Some people spotted Universal vans there and things like that. Maybe it was a backup in case the UK plans fell through, but now they're definitely not going ahead with the PortAventura purchase. Maybe it makes the UK park a little bit more likely, just kind of removing one of those backups. A lot of the rest of the news from the end of September all came from a council meeting on the 26th of September, where it was just one of the agenda items on a pretty busy agenda. They said a few kind of interesting things in the meeting, like the idea that maybe the whole thing's moving a little bit slowly because a lot of the procedures for planning permission and consultation periods haven't really been done for a project like this before. So while it's all new to everyone involved, including the UK government and Universal's side working with the UK government and UK laws, people are a little bit unsure of how to do things, and things are just taking a little bit longer than they should really. Obviously, a lot of the planning permission rules and regulations and procedures have changed fairly considerably since the last time a new theme park was built in the UK. So everyone's kind of trying to make sure everything's working properly and all the boxes are ticked and all the forms are filled in. Everyone's trying to make sure they don't make any mistakes along the way, which is what you'd expect with something that's going to cost an absolutely astronomical amount of money. It was also said in the meeting that Universal were having a stakeholder meeting on the 1st of October, and apparently they've been keeping these up every 2 weeks. So all of the kind of government representatives who are involved in this, as well as people from the council who need to know about things, maybe people from like environment agencies or people involved in infrastructure construction, as well as people from Universal's side, have been meeting up every 2 weeks to kind of make sure everything's progressing along. They're doing this ahead of them submitting what's called an SDO submission. It's the Special Development Order submission. We talked about Special Development Orders before. Basically, it's a way for the company who wants to build something to go directly to the government with what they want to do. So they can kind of almost skip over local councils and local consultations a little bit to try and make sure something gets almost fast-tracked through the planning permission. The problem is that you do need to get that SDO in the first place, and it's never been granted for something like this before. Apparently their SDO submission is expected in mid-November now, so a little bit later than they originally thought. So that means there's probably going to be a bit of a wait before any real updates, because that's kind of an important step that they need to make sure that gets granted before they can move ahead with things like actual planning permission. It is important to note that all of these delays aren't necessarily a negative thing, they're just a thing. They're just something that is taking more time than people probably thought, but all of the kind of murmuring about it, all the things they are allowed to say, have been pretty positive. There was a tweet from the MP for Bedford on the 1st of October that sounded really positive, but did also point out that no decision had actually been made. He said, "Really positive meeting today with the Universal Studio executives," and there was a photo of him with them. "We discussed progress so far in hopes of a final decision being made soon. I know there's a lot of excitement for this project, and while it's not yet a done deal, I will be doing all I can to get it across the line." And it was noted in the council meeting that Universal have entered a quiet period regarding public announcements on the project, so the government's doing the same. So I wouldn't take the lack of news to be a bad thing or to make you think that this project is less likely to go ahead. Everybody involved still sounds very positive. All the things that were talked about in a council meeting seem to be, yeah, everything's happening that needs to be happening. There's no red flags so far. There's no big obstacles to it. It's just a matter of kind of procedure and those negotiations we talked about in the last video, where obviously Universal will want to get as much as they can out of the government in terms of subsidies and tax breaks, and the government chipping in a little bit more for all of the infrastructure improvements. While the government want this project to go ahead, they also want to make sure they're not paying more for it than they need to. So right now, I'm not really expecting to hear anything until that SDO is approved, or not approved, if it got turned down. It sounds like it will be approved, but until that happens, I don't think we're going to be hearing much more from the project. So sadly, that's going to be kind of, if they're applying for it in November, I wouldn't expect to hear anything until late November or maybe even early December. Like I said, I'm a bit conscious of not wasting your time with these videos. I don't want to be doing update videos when there's not really anything to update you on. I'd rather that every time you saw there's an update video, you'd know something has actually happened. So that's what I'm going to be doing moving forwards. If you want to see more of these, make sure you subscribe, turn your notifications on, and I'll see you for the next one. Goodbye.